Hello, Scott. I have more of a beard than Taylor does, and my hair is nowhere near as glorious. But thank you very much. We are sitting with probably the best and most patient specialist in waiting and hunting. We have got a garden orb spider. Isn't that beautiful? It is the first one of the season for me, and we were discussing, I think it was with you and me, Seb, the other day. We were discussing the lack of these this year, and my assumption is the fact that they are seasonal breeders, which means that this is a female. She will mate at some stage, and she'll lay eggs in the vegetation, and then she'll die. And then next season, next rainy season, they'll hatch again. So what I'm assuming, this is only me and my expert knowledge on spiders, which I do not claim to have, but my assumption is that because we had that sort of like mock rainfall in December, a lot of these spiders hatched and came out, but then the insects didn't follow because the rain didn't perpetuate or didn't continue, so we didn't get the insect blooms, and then I think those individuals maybe died off because we haven't seen any of the golden. I haven't seen a single golden orb this season, so it's probably remnants of the drought that has come forward, but this is a glorious specimen, and if you look at the abdomen, it's very jagged on the sides there, and that is indication that that is the garden and not the golden. The golden is very similar in coloration, but that abdomen is sort of nice and round and smooth, but with very similar yellows and blacks. But what I marvel at is that very white sort of zigzag line down the front of the spider's sort of face. That is known as the stabilimentum, and it's a different type of silk that the spider uses, and there's a lot of theories about it, and one of the theories is that it stabilizes the web, makes it a lot stronger. A second theory is that it's quite visible to animals if they are walking, and if you get caught in a golden or garden orb web spider's web, it's very sticky and very uncomfortable, so I think a lot of animals will see it and move aside, including birds. These spiders have been known to catch birds. I've seen it in Johannesburg. I've never seen it out here in the wilderness. But a third theory, a hypothesis that came forward, is that stabilimentum has actually got a UV signature. And what does the spider feed on? They feed on insects, and what a lot of insects follow, they follow UV signatures, landing pads, landing zones, as in the form of flowers that have these little sort of UV signatures, and there's a possibility that that stabilimentum actually offers that sort of very attractive landing spot for an insect. And you see where she's perched, she is waiting right there for something to land in front of her mouth, and she'll quickly run up and gobble it. I'm going to move over a little bit, see if I can point, see if there's anything else, because she's the female, and often in these species, the garden and the golden, you find the male living in the web, and he is often a very tiny, tiny individual, and she often tries to eat him. So you often find the males missing one or two legs, one or two, sometimes three. So like our leopard we saw earlier with only 2 toes. I'm sorry about that. And so what happens is he has to learn how to not be eaten. Obviously, if the female eats every male, then really the male's life is just not a good one. So what he does is very similar to James Hendry, in that the male will sit at the top of the web and he'll play a bit of a tune on the web, kind of like a rhythm that stimulates her, and quite often she charges up the web to go and eat whatever it is, and he drops down a lifeline, scampers away, and then again he does the same process until eventually she realizes that it's a mate, and she goes to him, they mate, and she's able to actually store the sperm that he transfers to her through her entire breeding season. So they only have to mate once, and she can lay multiple eggs. So isn't that marvelous? The colors are just very, very cool. And yes, those of you who are afraid of spiders, you should have turned away a little while ago. Marco, these spiders, they hatch with the rains seasonally, so every year, and I've seen them go from quite small to about this size in the matter of about a month and a half, plus minus, and that is a very rapid growth rate. So, and then, I mean, this, I think she's actually going to get a little bit bigger than this before she lays all of her eggs and then dies. So the insects are out. There's lots of food for them this time of year. There's nothing in the web at the moment. She is poised and she is ready. But it's a very, very quick turnaround time, and so they grow to a huge proportion compared to the males, which stay very, very small. And the males live in the web with the females, and obviously the female spins the web, and the male just benefits from any sort of bycatch that she might have in that web. So I think that is really, really good camera work there, Seb. Well done. You want to try, when you finish, come around the other side, or is that a bit tricky?
We can.
Without disturbing the web. See her face, so to speak. AB, with both of these, the garden and the golden orb, the male lives in the female's web, and these females and the spiders themselves will only sort of survive the summer months here while it's green and while there's insects. Then they will just sort of pass on. Once the genes have been, once the mating has happened and once all the feeding has taken place, then the female will go into the branches of the tree she is on, lay her eggs, and then just fall over and die. So I think the fate is quite similar to that of the male. The only difference is that she does all of the work and he just plays love songs from time to time. I hope James was listening. It is a wonderful music. I do actually miss James. He'd often come back in the evenings or in the morning and pick up his guitar. And we live all quite close to each other. And so he'd always just jam some of the most amazing songs. Yeah, I'm quite envious. Isn't that marvelous? So we have spotted a beautiful fly. Spider. The spider said the fly. Well done, Seb. I think that was marvelous photography, or